Welcome to the E-commerce Leader Series, the podcast dedicated to helping founders and operators navigate the future of online retail with AI. I'm your host, Brian Kinghorn, Head of Growth here at Luca. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Tim Porth, who is the President and co-founder of Fiix Body. So Tim, thank you very much for joining us. Before we delve deeper into our topics of conversation, would you mind just giving us a bit of background to you, to your business, and tell us a bit about your story?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Brian. I guess the easiest way to summarize it is my professional life has been around kind of two things. I love building things and mostly physical products, but I've gotten into some digital products lately. And then the second thing is health and fitness. So I've kind of surrounded my background started in the fitness equipment space. So I spent 25 years designing, building, selling fitness equipment. I did the first 7 years for some large companies, some of the big equipment manufacturers, both on the consumer side and on the health club side. And then in 2001, I started with another gentleman, a company called Octane Fitness, and we sold elliptical trainers globally. It was a fantastic journey. It was a great ride. And I ran that for about 17 years before we had two successful exits. And so then after that, I was getting a little bored on the whole fitness equipment side of things. So I had struggled with a condition, tennis and golfer's elbow, which is actually, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a terrible name. Like less than 50% of the people that get it wind up playing tennis or golf. So they usually get it from other activities, but it's basically just an overuse condition of the tendon. So tennis elbows on the outside, golfer's elbows on the inside. And it's just a lack of healing in those tendons. So I'd struggled with that when we started this, I'd struggled with it for a while, and I knew a couple physical therapists due to my fitness equipment background, some friends that had helped me design equipment. And they told me, I tried every therapy. They kind of ran me through the whole process of trying to get that elbow fixed, everything from injections to chiropractic to going to physical therapy. And at the end of the day, they told me I was a non-compliant patient, which meant I wouldn't go to the clinic enough. So that was kind of the light bulb moment. And one of them said, well, you know how to build things. Why don't you just make something that would replicate what we do in the clinic? And then you could sell it to people and you could pay us a royalty. And they kind of chuckled. But, I kind of took it to heart because I didn't know what I was going to do after designing fitness equipment. So I typically design things for myself that will help improve my life. But I found out in the US, there were 14 million people that suffer from tennis and golfer's elbow. So a big enough market to go after, and it turned into Fiix Body and the Fiix Elbow, the machine we designed that replicates that treatment they do in the clinic, but it makes it really easy to comply. And that's really the whole thing. It removes all the hurdles of, finding, and everybody's insurance is different, whether it's, the path to medical across the globe. But in the United States where we're located, you have deductibles and copays, and you have to travel to the clinic on a regular basis. So we allow you to do it at home instead of having to go to the clinic 2 or 3 times a week for 8+ weeks. So we really simplify the process. It's all about compliance.
Nice. So exactly, and then just explain a bit about like how the business model works, like how does that look? You've obviously got online, you've got virtual consultations. You've already spoken about that before we started recording. So yeah, just explain how that works.
Yeah, we've tried, if you look at the top of funnel, we've tried a lot of different things. We've gone to tennis tournaments, we've gone to golf shows, we've gone to pickleball tournaments where we can meet people that have the condition. But if I take one step back, out of those 14 million people that are suffering from tennis and golfer's elbow, there's about 1 million people actively searching on Google and Bing. So, you got 13 million people that aren't actively looking.
Yeah.
So our key is the driver of most of our sales is paid search and paid social. So we primarily do Google on the search side, and we do Meta, so Facebook and Instagram on the social side. And we do prospecting and remarketing on Meta. So that works pretty well. And then Google. But then there's a whole audience out there that we're not reaching. So we continue to look at different channels and avenues. And we've tried a bunch of things. Some have worked better than others. But it's all through our website right now.
Cool. And then when a customer does land on your website, wherever they've came from, how does it then look from there? Like how do you get, so I know there's the consultation and what does it look like once you've actually got that customer on the website? How do they become a customer?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple process for them to buy, but the problem with tennis and golfer's elbow is the customer is incredibly skeptical.
Okay.
So they've been, there's a term called snake oil where, there are things that don't really fix the solution. So if you were to go out and do the traditional path, whether it's over the counter, or you do the rest and wait, there's so many different options for people, or you can buy gadgets that really don't address the root cause being that tendon right here. That's what you need to fix. But you can do everything from, you see things where people say, just do dead hangs or do heavy weights and take a baseball bat and rotate it back and forth. And all these things irritate the tendon. They really don't address that root cause. So our customers tried a bunch of things. So what we try to do is get them on the virtual call that you mentioned, so that we have elbow coaches that then talk people through, and we understand what what the driver of their pain was, what they've tried, and then we see if our solution's a fit. So that's really a big part of the process. And we've taken, I know a lot of this is about AI, but we try to be AI smart, but then use a human to talk to people and really understand their condition. And our customers are blown away because they're now used to chatbots or things that aren't giving great answers. And we'll get there with great answers on chatbots and stuff. And there's some people that don't want to talk to a human, but overwhelmingly we hear, wow, I can't believe there was somebody there that knew this condition, could really talk me through it. So that's been a really good process for us.
Nice. And I suppose in your sort of space, wellness, fitness, trust is a big thing for customers to trust a brand. So how do you, what methods are you using? How do you go about sort of building that trust and showing that, Fiix Body are the business to go to for this problem?
Yeah, trust is a huge one. It's a huge one. Price point wise, if you look at that, because some people do have a little bit of sticker shock on it, we charge $299 for an 8-week rental. So you can rent it, which is just like going to a physical therapy clinic, or you can buy it for $599, so $600. And, sometimes people don't realize that's a big part of our education is how much you've spent over time. Because if you go to the clinic and you have a copay, that your travel time, everything else, you buy, a $40 sleeve, and then pay for $115 for acupuncture treatments. We call it death by 1,000 cuts, where, people are handing out small amounts of money, and before you know it, you're $800 into it. And the challenge is, the thing is, there really isn't a plan with that strategy where you try a little bit of this and you try a little bit of that and try a little bit of the next solution. And you've spent a whole bunch of money, and then there's no money back guarantee. And that's one thing we offer. If you buy the machine, there's a 90-day money back guarantee. So even if it doesn't work for you, you can return it. Yeah,
cool. No, that's interesting. The death by 1,000 cuts is very funny, because we talk about death by 1,000 dashboards at Luca in regards to when you're operating an e-commerce business. You've got all these dashboards out there, and it can be overwhelming. So that's a funny that you use those words. It's something we talk about internally quite a lot.
I totally get it. I've had too many dashboards and too many places to look up data, and it's just you get lost.
So for you guys, so I'm thinking about the customer acquisition model here, and as an e-commerce business, obviously we're always talking about acquiring new customers. New customers are important. We're talking about retention as well is really important, and loyalty. I suppose you're in a weird space where I suppose retaining, you don't really want to retain a customer. You want to just get them once, but I might be wrong. So tell me, how do you think about retention? If somebody buys one of your things for the first time, you're maybe not thinking about them again.
Yeah, it's a one-time sale. Yeah. So, a lot of people look at lifetime value of a customer, and average order value. And those aren't as important to us, because we have one main product, and you can either rent it or buy it. And by the way, 50% of the people that rent it wind up buying it because they like it enough.
Yeah. So your equivalent of retention basically is, if somebody's renting something, hopefully they'll then go on to buy it.
Yep. And then the second part though is referral, because anybody with pain that solved their pain wants to share it with somebody that has pain. So if if you are a golfer or a pickleball player or anything else, like we get construction workers.
Yeah.
And if they see somebody that has the same pain, they immediately talk to them. And through our surveys and stuff, it's about 10 to 15% of our customers come through recommendations.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's probably where we look at it the most, where we really want to help people get them fixed so then that they become a referral for us.
Cool. And Tim, remind me, how long has Fiix been a business for? When did you launch?
Yeah, so we launched at the end of 2020. So we've been about 5 years.
Cool. So over 5 years, I'm sure it hasn't always been continual plain sailing, easy, businesses never are. So what have been some of the sort of bigger operational challenges you've had in the last 5 years, and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, well, my previous life in the fitness equipment side, it was all B2B. So we were selling to retailers, or we were selling directly to health clubs or to some distributors. And this was, when I started it, it was easy to just put something up on Google and people will buy it, right? That was in the original business plan. And lo and behold, it hasn't been that exact way. That hasn't been exactly true. But, the challenge for us is, the biggest challenge is by far all the algorithm changes and privacy and all the things within Google, Facebook, Instagram. Once there's a privacy change, like iOS, I think it was 14.5 a few years ago, like things were humming, and all of a sudden you hit this, and then Google just threw a curveball at us in mid-February on putting more AI into it, and our ROAS just dropped. So we're constantly battling that, and that's one thing we're starting to use AI for, is analyze our results and then tell us what's going on in the industry. So how have we performed, and where did we drop, and then what noise is going out on in the industry that we can summarize to say what other people have experienced for the challenge, and then what are they doing to address it.
Yeah. Nice. Well, that's a nice segue into some discussion around AI. So, I suppose for us, obviously we're building an AI tool, so we're in and around AI every single hour of every single day, every minute, if you like. But for you, leading an e-com business, physical products, e-commerce business, how are you utilizing AI? Give us some example. I know there's lots of different ways you can be using it, but giving us some recent examples of how you're using AI within your business.
Yeah, I mean, it's infiltrated our business pretty well within our whole team using it. A lot of times it starts out with, just chats, and whether you're researching and learning information or helping you construct content, for the customer, because people really need to understand the conditions. So we spend a lot of time creating content around that. So that was kind of the beginning. We started in some thought partner type things, like, hey, help me think through different concepts, designing new machines, industrial design concepts, protocols. What are the best protocols? So we've used it on the R&D front quite a bit. And then more recently, we started creating some dashboards and analytics into our Google Ads platform. We're going to do the Meta platform, but we've got a couple dashboards now that we've had created. So that's why Lucas seems like such a great solution if it all comes in tied in out of the box. So we've hired an individual who has started helping us pull that stuff together. But that has been incredibly exciting on the analysis front of that. And then we're looking at CRO. We're starting to do CRO and then automate some our virtual consult recordings so that we can get best practices and understand, what are the most common questions we're hearing, what are the big objections, and then what seems to be successful to get people to purchase.
Yeah, nice. No, it's awesome to hear that you're definitely using it in the right way. There's obviously always opportunities to improve things, and there's always, I don't think anyone's going to be a total expert on it and using everything that is available to us now, but it definitely seems like you're in the right way. So in regards to some decision making that you have to do as a founder, you're making decisions all the time, small ones, large ones, and everything in between. It's a key, factor of being a founder. Are you using AI, or how are you using AI to help with some of these decision making, some of the decision making you've got to do as a founder of a growing business?
I ask questions all the time. And then I try to take the data back, and I do it with my team too. So, we're pushing it down so that people are coming back with solutions based on real world data. So we're constantly asking, how is this? Even a board deck, I put a board deck into my AI engine and get responses back like, all right, here are previous board decks, just historic. There's so many things, and we're able to focus so much more on the next creative thing instead of the analysis front, because we get that data coming forward, but we're using it nonstop for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And as for you, within the business, which metrics matter the most to you? Like which ones are you constantly looking at to understand where the business is at?
I mean, the driver for us is ROAS and our customer acquisition cost. I mean, those two are by far the most important if I boil it all the way down, because we don't have the average order value because we're really selling one SKU. We have a few options, and it can go up and down a little bit, but those two are definitely, we don't look at, on our dashboard, those are the biggies. We look at how many people are coming to the site, how many unique visitors we get, and all those other details, but those are secondary, because if the ROAS and the CAC is off, we have trouble.
Yeah. And then in regards to the team itself, at Fiix, I don't know exactly how what that team looks like, but hopefully you can elaborate slightly on that point. But what's the adoption reception of AI been like? Has everyone in the business been totally open to it? There's been a bit of reluctance in pit? Okay, so talk to us about that and how that's looked.
Quick answer is no. It was funny. So my wife works in the business, and she's our lead elbow coach. And it was my birthday, and there was a webinar going on, or not a webinar, it was actually an in-person workshop. It was my birthday. And I said, hey, do you want to go to this thing? And I said, I think it's going to be fun. You might be a little bored, but she said she would go. And then before we were going, she kind of gave me a snippy, like, I'm only going to this because it's your birthday. Like, I'm not going to get anything out of this. And she came away absolutely blown away. So she's adopted it into her everyday work and everyday life. And we have some other people, I would say the age group of our employees and our contractors are a little on the older side. So it's not maybe second nature for some people, but once people start, and you start to see the results, and I always tell people, do fun stuff. Like, just start asking it questions about your favorite sports teams, or, your favorite hobby, like, where can I go fishing? Whatever it is, if you can get somebody to do that, and then they start applying it to work and like getting responses for emails, it just continues to grow. But, to get to the agent point where it can start doing work, a lot of times, if those employees, a lot of times those employees aren't watching podcasts and, reading about it nonstop and the newsletters and everything else. So they have to be brought into that part of it. But boy, once you give them one of these agents, or it's just get ready, fasten your seatbelt.
Yeah, absolutely. In regards to AI within physical products, I know that's maybe not necessarily your product, but how do you see AI getting more of a place in the actual recovery or wellness product itself over the next sort of years?
Yeah, so we have an app that goes along. So our product comes with a full protocol. So really it's a full solution, and it's just like going to PT for 8 weeks, but you do it at home. So you're sitting down. We have an app that goes with it, and that app onboards somebody. So it tells them what to do, like exactly how to do it. And then we give them reminders so that they stay on track. That's part of the compliance. And then they self-record their therapy sessions and the stretching. We have an exercise protocol that goes with it. So then we kind of gamify that portion, but then we have that data on the back end so that we can then pull that data and see what the success rates are. Like, if somebody is only 80% compliant in the exercises, but they're 100% compliant in the therapy itself from the robot, we can start to measure all of that kind of stuff and get end results, which is outcomes, is what this whole thing is about. And that's where the medical community starts to embrace it even more, because we could say, hey, look, we've got 10,000 people that have been in this product, and these are the results we're seeing. And eventually right now the robot itself does not talk to the app, but that's on the roadmap to add that connection in. So it'll only get better. But the AI from that is exponential. We'll be able to see, where people start falling off. Is it at week 3? Is it week 5? Their pain, we can watch your pain might get worse. So do we need to send them an outgoing message saying, hey, we notice your pain might be worse. That's okay. That's part of it. That means your body's healing. So there's a lot of intelligence. And then, can we change it? We don't know if we need to right now, but can we customize the prescription based on your pain and where you're at? So, a lot of opportunity with AI going forward on that.
Nice. And is there any particular departments that have taken more of a interest in the AI side? Sometimes we find that it's marketing that seems to be the forefront of, their early adopters are getting involved, but sometimes it's not that. So yeah, how's that looked for you guys?
Yeah, marketing, it starts with marketing. That's definitely, we've seen that. But on the financial analytics side now with Claude and some of the tools, even within Shopify and stuff, we can just pull information out so much quicker. So it's been fun to see the finance side of it start to drive questions. And then, they'll even start poking around with, different conditions and fitness part. So in this business, we also have 2 physical therapists, the guys that I spoke of earlier. So they're business partners in here. So we hit them with questions and they are coming back sometimes with AI responses. And it's fun to see it get deep into everybody's, into their workday.
Yeah, nice. And in regards to then back to some just like leading a business in general, what have you learned from the Fiix Body experience? I know you've done lots of things before that, but if you have, you maybe haven't, but how have you changed as a leader over the last 5 years since Fiix started?
The big picture summaries is something. Sometimes I can get, tunnel focused, like on small picture things. But I think the AI portion, a lot of it is zooming out, which, we're active. I mean, everybody in our company is working. We don't have managers. So you get in the day to day, and then with AI, I'll put some things in and I'll be able to zoom out and it'll show me like historically, because I've got a lot of historical stuff in our engine. It'll tell me like, hey, this is what you said 6 months ago. It's so that big picture. And we don't use Slack, but I know some people use Slack and give me a daily summary of what's happening within our organization. Things like that I think are just exponential to help me zoom out.
Yeah, nice. No, it's very important. It is something that I found as AI's helped me with as well. It's just, because you're in the weeds of it every day, and you sometimes don't take enough time to take a step back and actually think or work on the business rather than in it. So AI is a huge tool for that, and probably one that's underutilized quite a lot as well by founders or CEOs.
Yeah, some people might already have their system to do that. We don't, so it's just getting implemented now.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, before we start thinking about wrapping up our conversation, I want to ask some like rapid fire questions. So just quick questions, quickest response that comes to your head. I think these are always draw out some really good answers. So first one would be one thing that every entrepreneur should prioritize.
Business plan forecast.
Okay.
And measure against it.
Yeah.
And that's a good one that AI can help you continue to do. But I'm involved in a couple other small businesses. And that's definitely a shortcoming for a lot of companies, visionary founders that want to just keep marching forward and don't follow what they said they were going to do.
Cool. And then on the flip side of that, then one thing that every entrepreneur should stop doing.
Ooh, that's a good one. Changing direction unless it's needed.
Yeah.
I see too many entrepreneurs that see the next shiny object and they want to run that direction and they haven't fully executed. I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, it's hard to fully execute something and see it all the way through to build that foundation. Yeah. So that would be my.
Nice. And I suppose the most important lesson you've learned as a founder.
Every founder, well, not every. You might have to become a salesman.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Never been in sales before in my life. When we started this business, I thought it was all going to be, just people going on Google, buying the product, and I found myself going out to PT clinics, speaking to doctors, going to pickleball tournaments, and being out there pitching it firsthand. And I never thought I would be doing that, but I've lived the experience. I've had tennis and golfers. I had it for 7.5 years before we started this. So I'm a testament to it working, and I can speak through it, but the learnings from that, and maybe the add-on to that is talking to the customer, like directly talking to the customer to get firsthand information.
Yeah.
I didn't do that in the beginning, and it hurt our growth.
Yeah. Nice. And final one on these are, obviously, it's aside from Fiix Body, clearly, but one recovery habit. So this just for general recovery as a human, what is one recovery habit that everyone should adopt, in your opinion?
Yeah, I start my morning out every day with a mobility routine, and it's different than stretching. One thing I've come to learn, like mobility versus stretching, where you're moving, and you can get a bunch of them online. You can just Google it, or Instagram, Facebook has a lot of just like a 5-10 minute routine, and I stretch it out to about 20 minutes. But when I wake up in the morning, I get moving, and it's all my joints, and there's like 10 little routines you can do. I think that's the most important thing I do of the day, because it just gets all your blood flowing, gets all that soft tissue. That's where the pain comes from, and all the soft tissue. It starts to get those things all moving, and really makes a huge difference for me. I lift heavy again. I stopped lifting heavy, but since I do the mobility, I knock on wood here, I haven't gotten injured. So we'll see.
Nice. Great answer. And just to start closing off, if we were to have you back on the podcast in 5 years' time, what would need to happen for you to say that Fiix had exceeded all your expectations that you have today? Yeah.
Well, the vision for the company is definitely to fix more conditions, because physical therapy is 70% of people don't finish physical therapy that go into physical therapy. So we want to change that number, and we want to simplify and make the process more friendly, easier to comply. And we think that we call it direct care, where you go direct to the consumer versus going through the medical process. But then I think the other big thing, so it would be multiple SKUs, but then the other big thing would be to get into some of these corporations, the large self-insured corporations, because those are the people that care about the cost of healthcare and their employee, so that they can retain the employee. So if we could break into that category, I think the combination of multiple SKUs and getting beyond just direct to consumer, getting some large, I call them corporate accounts, would be a really successful platform for this company.
Nice. Well, I'm sure you'll get there. Well, Tim, it's been a pleasure. Where is the best place for our listeners to find you and then the business?
Yeah, it's Fiix Body with 2 I's. So it's FIIX body.com. So that's our website. And then you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. We do a lot of posting on there. And then me personally, LinkedIn's probably the best spot.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thanks very much, Tim. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast, and we will talk to you again soon, hopefully.
Thank you. I love what you guys are doing.